They say that people spend way too much time trying to prove a new theory based off one of the smallest details in an event, instead of trying to disprove the primary theory. Conspiracy theories, theories way out of left field, and theories that just kind of make the mind think and add a lot of mystery to an event, they really get a lot of attention. The thing is, if those theories out of left field just get way too much attention, they can actually hurt society, they can hurt the actual truth. But there are reasons why people come up with these theories. They are rampant across the internet. In relation to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I've seen tons of just bogus stuff out there, guys. And so you have to discern truth, logic from just way out of left field stuff. And sadly, Charlie Kirk lost his life just talking to people about what he believed in, what he thought was right and moral for society, what he thought that would help the world, and his belief in Jesus Christ. And when we look back in history, we've seen people get assassinated for very similar reasons, for just having their beliefs and peacefully talking to other people about them. My sincere condolences to the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. And really what I'm trying to do in this video is trying to just debunk some of the crazy conspiracies out there so we can just hone in on what we know and what we are seeing through these video images, and just kind of give us a good logical explanation. Now, there really hasn't been a lot released as far as evidence is concerned, so we don't know all of what's going on with the FBI or what's going on with the investigation, but this is what's leading people to start to follow along the conspiracies. When there's not a lot of solid evidence, solid information out, that's when people's imaginations run wild. So let's go over some of these false claims here that I think we should debunk right off the bat. First of all, they said Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a palm pistol. Somebody just saw somebody moving in the crowd and slightly go for an itch of their arm. It just looked like somebody was scratching their arm. You would probably have to get a lot of practice shooting a palm pistol to actually be accurate and actually aim properly in a crowded environment like that. And if something like that went off next to somebody else, you'd have a crowd of people just looking at the direction of where this shot came from. And we just don't see that. Another thing we should debunk is that he was shot from the right side, in a bit from the building off to his right, and the bullet came in through here and exited out through here. So this could be a plausible explanation, but due to sound forensics and somebody said there was a muzzle flash there, it just doesn't seem like it's a probable explanation. When you take into consideration that an exit wound, usually you're going to see a lot of blowout, we didn't see that. We just saw a hole appear, and then we saw a gush. Not only that, but between the muzzle flash, quote unquote, and the sound forensics, there's just way too many seconds, and it doesn't add up. Also, somebody says there's a vapor trail, or there's bullets that you can see. There's a lot of, it seems like there was a lot of bugs flying around, and you can definitely see that in the footage. If you go back minutes before and just watch throughout the whole time frame, you'll see little specks kind of show up. Maybe these are like flies flying around that are just catching the light just right, and they're showing up on the cell phone footage. Well, during the shooting, apparently, these are showing up again, and that's what's leading people to say, oh, it's a vapor trail, oh, there's the bullet. And a cell phone capturing an image of a bullet at that high rate of speed from that far away with maybe 30 frames per second, yeah, I highly doubt that. All right, something else that people are saying is that the shooter from the security camera footage did not have a rifle when he jumped off the roof. There's people that are cutting up this footage and just showing you what they want to show you to kind of fit their narrative. It's kind of sad that people are spinning the theories around and getting a lot of attention. Now, yes, there's a lot of people that probably want a lot of attention off the Charlie Kirk shooting, and so they're going to weigh in their opinions, and they're going to weigh in their theories and try to get a lot of attention so they can go viral and they can get money and they can get sponsorship deals. You know, some people might be on these conspiracy trains just because they're just letting their imagination run wild, and they're not actually logically thinking about certain aspects of the event. I'm just trying to find out what actually makes sense. So yeah, if we look back at the footage, Hughes actually does a very good explanation on this. US Overwatch also does a ballistic explanation on the ballistic side of things. Those two videos there, I think we should take a look at. I'll link them in the description. Also, I think Paramount Tactical has a very sound explanation for what occurred and a kind of a logical breakdown. But yeah, going back to the shooter jumping off the roof, he had something long wrapped in a towel, and when he jumped off the roof, you can see it. And when he's running, you can see it even better. So a lot of people end up cutting the footage out to kind of spin the narrative here. And they just kind of lead you in the wrong direction. Now, some people are saying, this was a professional hit. There's no way that somebody is gonna shoot somebody else in the neck at 150 yards. Okay, so I looked at the distance on Google Earth. It's about 140 yards shot. But the thing is, I think it was not purposefully aimed at the neck. Professionals are not trained to aim at the neck. Professionals are trained to aim center mass. If there is some kind of variance in the 4 disciplines of marksmanship, then yeah, the bullet might still have a chance of hitting that target. Now, in some other footage that I saw, there was an individual that recorded the shooter on the rooftop laying down and said, hey, I saw this guy run from here to there. Huh. Well, okay, so check it out. If the shooter did run from the middle of the top of the building to the corner of the building, and he needs to get a shot off real quick before getting found out, his breathing's going to be off. He might have been under a lot of adrenaline, and when he took the shot, I think that he might have not been breathing very well. His breathing might have been very escalated, and that caused the shot to actually hit high. I think he was aiming center mass. Now, another thing people are saying is, oh, there's no way that the shooter used this rifle, a Mauser, to take the shot in 30-06. Well, this pattern of Mauser was designed in 1898. Came out as the Gewehr 98, and later on during World War II, it was mass-produced by the German military as the K98K. It became a very popular rifle. It's a very smooth bolt action. It's very accurate. It shot 8mm Mauser, and that's when people are also saying, if it's a Mauser, why is it not an 8mm? Well, if you notice the barrel here on the rifle, that is not the proper 8mm Mauser barrel. The actual barrel on a K98K would have been a stepped barrel, and this is a very smooth kind of barrel that looks like it was replaced and it was put on there, and obviously the original K98K stock was removed and this synthetic stock was put on there. Also, somebody put some custom scope mounts on there. Essentially, it's a sporterized K98K with a 30-06 barrel installed by a gunsmith, and the scope rings also installed. This was very popular in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, when gunsmiths would take a lot of these cheap military surplus rifles and convert them to a common caliber that you could find in the US so that hunters could use them as a cheap hunting rifle. Now, another thing that people are pointing out here about this is, hey, the scope is off, and what happened there? I don't think he took the shot that way with the scope rings off and the scope mount off. I think that as he was moving and jumping off the building and running with it, it might have altered the scope on there. Another thing about the rifle is that some text messages were released, and it turned out to be its grandpa's rifle. This is the shooter's grandpa's hunting rifle, and that would make sense why it's 30-06, a sporterized K98K. He's an older person from an older generation that probably would have gotten a cheap hunting rifle back in the day. Another thing here is people are saying that, hey, the shot was suppressed. Have you ever recorded a gunshot sound on a phone without a special microphone? Or even if you did have a special microphone, I use a Rode mic on my phone, and it's a smaller Rode mic. And even then, the sound is still compressed, and it sounds like this, even standing right next to it. Whereas if I was to use my video mic, my Rode video mic on my actual camera, this is what the audio sounds like. Yep. In regards to body armor, I think it's very unlikely that he was wearing body armor and he got shot in the upper part of the body armor. US Overwatch's tests with body armor do show that a bullet could ricochet from the upper part of a plate and impact into the neck. This would mean that the trajectory of the bullet was changed, the velocity of the bullet was slowed down, and the bullet would have entered the neck and probably went into by about the neck bone area, and that might have contained the bullet. Now, US Overwatch also did a test with a bullet hitting a collarbone. He used a cow bone instead of something more relatable to a human collarbone, but in his experience, he actually had a friend that he was downrange with who got shot in the collarbone, and the bullet actually took a little nosedive down and got stopped in that person's body. Granted, we don't know what kind of bullet that this person got shot with. I would assume, since it was downrange, it was a 7.62 by 3.9. It has a lot less velocity than a 30-06. Now, going back to Charlie Kirk and his body armor, yes, somebody could wear very concealable and very thin body armor under a shirt. Charlie Kirk was wearing a white shirt that day, and from the footage before, when he was throwing out hats, when he was walking up to the area, you could see that he probably wasn't wearing anything underneath the white shirt. Usually when somebody wears a white shirt, you can see something underneath. Anything pretty much contrasts. Even another white undershirt will contrast, and you could see it. So if he had something, I think it would be more noticeable under that white shirt. Now, we did see that he had some kind of microphone cable, as they're saying that it was probably a microphone cable. He's got different social media platforms. He might have been live streaming on something. They might have mic'd him up with different microphones, so that way they capture audio from different devices. They capture audio for different media platforms. So there's that aspect as well. And some people say that he might have been wearing a chain, and that's what we saw the shirt fly up. It could have been his body fat because of all that energy transfer, and that's where you're seeing all the muscle tissue and fat and everything in his body just reverberate. I'd say it's unlikely that he was wearing body armor. All right, so some people are also saying that the bullet wound here on the neck of Charlie Kirk is not an entry wound, and it's an exit wound. We don't see an exit wound, so usually with this kind of caliber rifle, you would see an exit wound on an individual, or even if you're deer hunting. What you actually see is a chest movement, kind of a tense up muscle reflex, and the shirt kind of moves down. You'll see a hole up here. He brings his arms up and he's pretty much leaned back. And honestly, this is somewhat consistent with an entry wound that the bullet didn't exit with. I think with all the energy transfer into the neck here, that would be consistent with blood rushing from the main artery and having nowhere else to go, so all that pressure is just going to spur out here. Now, if you're looking at an exit wound, you would probably see a blast out and a huge bunch of material, bone and flesh just come out from this, because all the energy transfer and all that pressure built up is just gonna spur out. So you don't see the spurring out, you just see a hole appear, and it seems like a second later, just blood gushes out. So that begs the question, where is the exit wound? The exit wound, very mysterious. This is what's actually driving people to come up with different theories on how he got shot, where he got shot, what he got shot with. Okay, look, 30-06 round, full metal jacket. Here's what it does to a bunch of pine wood boards all lined up. All right, Will's gonna try some 30-06 full metal jacket, 30-06.
Uh-huh.
Wow, so what would that have been? $15?
I think there was one or two that shattered. I went ahead and tossed out.
Okay, so like 17, we'll say.
Man.
Yeah, wow. What happened there? Did that come in backwards? It tumbled, yeah, it did. That's about 17 pine wood boards with a full metal jacket. But what does a soft point do? If you've gone hunting, you know you probably want to use a soft point or a some kind of round that is going to hit the intended target but deform, so that way it causes more damage and causes more energy transfer from the bullet to that game animal, so that it goes down and it does a lot of damage internally. And what I saw when Charlie Kirk got shot just reminded me of the many times I've gone deer hunting. That amount of energy transfer definitely seems consistent with a high velocity round. The exit wound. Where is the exit wound? Well, if someone was to get shot in the neck with a high velocity round, it's probably going to go through. It's probably going to cause a lot of energy transfer just within that space, and you'll see a huge exit wound out the back. Even, I think, even if it hit the neck bone here, you got to think, it's only 4 inches of penetration that you're talking about somebody's neck. There's still a lot of energy transfer. Here is a shot of 30-06 hitting ballistic gel. All right, you can see that this is a full metal jacket yet again, and the energy transfer is pretty huge. You're talking this whole ballistic gel block length. Now let's take a look at what a soft point. I don't have a 30-06 soft point shooting ballistic gel, but I have some similar calibers. Yeah, you can see the 2 patterns, the 303 British right next to the 7.62 by 54R. All right, so it appears that within the first 6 inches or so is when you'll have probably the most energy transfer from a soft point bullet. And you see how it just disperses throughout the ballistics gel. All that energy transfer going out. Yeah, when we talk about Charlie's neck, that's 4 inches. But you gotta remember, Charlie Kirk was shot from an elevated platform. The shooter was on top of the building right here. And if you look at the trajectory course, there's about a 10-degree difference there from the shot and Charlie Kirk. So when we take that into consideration, we're actually looking more about 6 to 8 inches of energy transfer, maybe even 10 inches of energy transfer from that bullet going into Charlie Kirk. So if you think about it, if Grandpa uses his rifle to go hunting with, he's probably going to have soft point bullets. A soft point has the lead that's exposed at the tip so that when it hits a target, it's going to mushroom and it's going to cause a lot more energy transfer and it's going to slow down velocity very quickly. Well, some of the other analysis out there from the YouTube channels I mentioned before do go over what happens when somebody gets hit in the spine. It was a reflex that Charlie had here with his arms coming up that would lead people to believe that his spine was severed in some way. With that much energy transfer, you're talking like there's a whole bunch more that bullet can travel, right? But if the energy transfer, the majority of it is within the first 8 inches or so, that means that you've probably lost a lot of velocity at that point, and the lead projectile is probably already mushroomed to an effect where now it hits the spine and it's not going to pierce the spine, but it's just going to cause a lot more damage throughout the spinal column and the backbone, and there's a lot of bones around this area. The bullet would probably impact a very strong point in the back of the neck / the collarbone area. There's a lot of bones there. Look how many bones and look how thick these bones are. That is where I think that the bullet might have impacted. And that could definitely stop a soft point bullet, given that there's a lot of tendons and muscle tissue also and skin holding this whole backbone in. So if it got impacted, this backbone probably had some fracturing, shattering, but a lot of it was probably held together still, and the bullet might have ricocheted internally somewhere else. Where did it go after it hit the backbone, the lower part of the upper neck? I don't know. This is still a theory here, guys, and this could be a logical explanation of why there's not an exit wound. In my experience deer hunting, yes, I've had a lot of through and throughs where the deer got impacted and the bullet went through. And I was even using soft points. Well, my son shot a deer one time, and it actually had an entry wound, but we could not find an exit wound. And he was using soft points, and he was using a high velocity 30 caliber cartridge. He was using a 303 British. So what happened to that bullet? Well, like I said, 10 inches you could have of a lot of energy transfer, and if there's a bone or something like a strong skeletal system infrastructure, that could definitely stop the bullet or cause it to ricochet internally and keep it within the deer, right? Well, he shot it at an angle, and we think that it entered a rib bone and kind of went through, and there's about 10 inches there of tissue and lungs and heart, And then, so it was traveling through a lot of different things. And we think that 10 inches there helped stop that bullet and slow it down. And then when it hit the actual bone in the front of the rib area and the chest area of that deer, that's when the bullet actually got stopped. So yeah, and I'm not the only hunter that notices this. There's other people that will shoot deer with soft points and see an entry wound, but not see an exit wound. And there was a statement released that one of the people at Turning Point USA talked to the surgeon, and the surgeon said that the bullet was found just under the skin. I'm taking that report with a grain of salt because that's not coming directly from the surgeon. That's coming from a third party, and that's not an official statement of what the FBI is doing. So it's one of those things where it's like, we need to see an autopsy. We need to see the actual bullet. And where is all that evidence? It's probably being looked at right now. Kind of going along that route. Overall, there's still a lot that needs to be uncovered. There's still a lot of information that needs to be released so that the public can understand what's actually going on. Here's the other thing. Throughout history, we've known that governments lie. We know that governments have an agenda. Politicians lie. Politicians have an agenda. If you follow the money trail, you could probably see where the agenda is, where the actual, why there's actually those lies, maybe even white lies. Politicians want to tell you things that make you feel good so that you don't vote against them, or that you feel great because they're telling you you feel great. I mean, there's even higher ups in some of these agencies that say the dumbest things that just don't make sense. Politicians, head of organizations. For instance, during the Trump assassination attempt, there was that sloped roof thing. They didn't put snipers on that roof because it was too sloped. All of us were like, are you serious? That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then even then, what happened to that shooter? There's no information about him. He just kind of disappeared. He got shot and then everything just kind of disappeared about him. You would think that Trump would try to find out more information to get released about this shooter, Matthew Crooks, and that wasn't released. The shooter in the Charlie Kirk incident is Tyler Robinson, who his motivation for this is, they're saying that it is because he is a hateful person and he is a far left radical, and that is the reason why he went and did this. It doesn't seem to be a secret that he's on the radical side. Seems like he was raised with very conservative values, but at some point in time, he might have changed his beliefs. But yet again, we just don't know some of these things about the Charlie Kirk incident. So if they would release something related to the autopsy, or they would release images of the bullets that were used in the rifle, or the bullet that was found in Charlie Kirk, we can get an idea, a better picture of what happened. And then this could probably squash a lot of the crazy conspiracies that are out there. Well, hopefully this shed some light on the incident. Definitely hope that you guys found value in this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I know there's all kinds of crazy things happening with this. So this, yet again, is my logical explanation for what is been released and what we see on these video footages from different angles. And I'm not trying to just nitpick these little small details to try to fit a narrative, a conspiracy narrative. I'm just kind of going along with what we see on the footage and what we know from all the different camera angles. And there's another YouTuber out there that actually posted a timeline of Tyler Robinson, the shooter, going from from start to finish, where he parked his car and how he made his way to campus. Then he took the shot, and then how he made his way back to his car, left the rifle in the woods. Now, this channel is about weapons history. This channel is about history, historical events, and how we as humans have lived in the past and how we have made it to today, living now. So feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to learn history and curate history. Make it a great day.